Hey guys, it's Tamara.
And Lindsay.
And you're listening to another episode of Take Me to Chelsea, a podcast where two Canadians rewatch and discuss the hit UK reality show Made in Chelsea. Today, we're discussing Series 1, Episode 6, Problems Not Solutions, That's the Way I Live My Life, which originally aired on June 13th, 2011. So, Linz, do you want to give us our synopsis?
Pack your bags. Millie and Caggie are off to the south of France with Hugo and Spencer, who conveniently still hasn't told Caggie he's broken up with Funda. They all frolic on a yacht, walk along the seashore, and wine and dine to celebrate Caggie's birthday. Her birthday present this year? A confession of love. Meanwhile, Millie and Hugo are back to flirting up a storm, and all the drama with Rosie is seemingly forgotten. Back in Chelsea, Francis and Fred form a gentleman's agreement to both date Agnes, and Ollie gives modeling a go, starting with a quasi-nude photo shoot in the middle of a park.
So let's pop the champagne. Okay, so I don't know about you, but I was super, super excited about this episode. This is my absolute favorite episode of this series, possibly of the entire show.
Yeah, no, when I saw the trailer last week of them on the yacht in France, I was like, oh my god, I have such fond memories of the...
So many memories.
I just remember, like, them laughing a lot and having fun and, like, the banter being so good. And I didn't remember anything else, really, about the episode, but I just remembered, like, the four of them
and just like living that life we can't live right now. So we start off before the girls and the guys have even left for Cannes. Or is it Cannes? I think Cannes sounds weird, but in an English accent it sounds better. But anyways, south of France, they're bikini shopping, presumably. It's Caggie and Millie, and they run into Rosie and Amber. And there's this awkward situation where Rosie has just essentially turned Hugo down. And I think she's feeling... not smug, but she's feeling kind of like done with that. And then Millie's, I find, put in this awkward situation because both of them know what happened. Like, everyone knows what happened. And I think they're trying to kind of girl power through it and kind of be like, oh, let's forget about Hugo. Like, this isn't going to happen. Like, no one's going back to Hugo or whatever. He's going to go after Caggie next. But I just felt badly for Millie, as always. Like, she just seemed sad because she was the one who was dumped, essentially, or rejected. And Rosie kind of is throwing it a little bit in her face. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but I understood where Rosie was coming from because I think she's kind of been the underdog. Mm-hmm. And now she's had the chance to reject Hugo. The whole thing made me feel sad for Millie.
Yeah, I felt the exact same way. Like, Millie's like almost like a meek little puppy. And Rosie's like asserting, oh yeah, I had him on a plate and I put the plate on the floor. And so there's a few things I thought about this. One is Rosie's clearly not okay. So I don't know if I don't think it's because she likes Hugo, but I think she's weirded out by Millie still going for it, is mm-hmm. my take on it. But she's trying to like overcompensate by being like, oh my gosh, he's like, I dumped him brutally, like really playing up the fact that she dumped him.
Yeah, which is weird because they're supposed to be friends, right? Like, Rosie and Hugo have a friendship, presumably.
Yeah, and also Millie calls Rosie her best friend. I would never go for him if my best friend wasn't okay with that. That's a bold statement to say.
Yeah.
But then I was also thinking, okay, so in the few episodes ago, it was like Rosie liking Hugo really built up. Like, everyone knew it. And then last episode, it was like, oh, Hugo likes Rosie. And then this episode, it was like the same thing. Like, oh, Hugo was so into Rosie, and she said no. So what happened to her feelings for him?
I feel like Rosie's sense of pride was injured so badly in this set of circumstances that her feelings just disappeared. Like, I think she's very closed off about her feelings, but they weren't even given the opportunity to really develop, and her pride took over because she's on this show and she essentially had to watch Millie hook up with Hugo twice when she felt vulnerable about it, I think she's done. But I just was left with this situation, or I was left with these feelings that Millie really genuinely did like Hugo and didn't really care about like what it looked like to other people. She kind of plays it off like, I think he's done with me sort of thing. Ultimately, I felt like her feelings were more obvious to the viewer.
She's so vulnerable, even with Rosie and the girls, but even in Con with Hugo, because she so clearly likes him, but is like very hurt by him. And let's be honest, he hasn't done much to win her affections or win her back. They're just in the same place.
Yeah. She acts like nothing's happened. She has so much forgiveness for him. I feel like that's a friendship, much more than how Rosie and Hugo were.
Yeah.
And I think that shows that she really did care about him, because even when they're at the table and he's about, I mean, they're both kind of drunk, but she just has this sad look on her face, and it's just like, I understand this chemistry is here and you've turned me down, but I still have feelings for you.
I know, and I think he's actually being a tit.
Yeah,
she clearly does like him, of course. Like, I think it's very clear to say, and he kind of, I mean, I like them together, so I'm just like a little, I'm maybe overreading it, but I feel like he is taking advantage a bit because he knows that, and she can't help herself because she likes him, so she'll go for it. But like, he doesn't deserve her at this point. Like, he needs to work for her.
I 100% agree. I think he is drunk in Con, and his best friend is going after his female best friend, Caggie and Spencer, which we're going to get to in a bit. But he is into Millie there because they're drunk and they have this chemistry. I think that's kind of the end of the line for him at this point. But Millie, clearly the feelings are deeper.
Which is even more of a potentially dickish move then, because
he's just turned her down. It's so, like, why is
and if he is just drunk and like they have chemistry, so he'll indulge himself, he's just really playing with her feelings.
Yeah. And Hugo downplays the whole situation with Rosie too, now that he's been rejected. I feel like Rosie and Hugo at this point are very similar in their attitudes. Like, they're both so concerned about how they look.
Yeah.
And like what's said versus what they're actually feeling.
I can't even picture them together, honestly. Like, they're so like, their personalities and how they handle things, it's like they would have zero chemistry.
So they kiss in Con, and this is like a drunken kiss, like that's what it sounds like, or what it looks like. And we kind of get a clip. Like, I don't think this gets the same weight that it deserves because of all the things that are happening with Spencer and Caggie at the same time. But something's shifted, because when they go to the garden party later, and again, this is like backstage compared to, or off stage compared to what's going on in the main plot of this episode, but you have Hugo and Millie actually get up and leave because they're going to a wedding, I think, together.
Yeah, that seemed very, like, intimate, right?
Very
how they
coupley,
left.
right?
Yeah.
We're going off. The only thing I could think that maybe accounts for that is that they were both invited. Like, it's a mutual friend.
No, I'm sure they were, but just how it just seemed like they were the couple in that situation, leaving together.
I agree. I mean, I'm here for it, but I don't think Hugo deserves it.
Not yet.
At this moment.
No. So the main hook of this episode is the movement.
Huge movement.
With the whole Spencer and Caggie relationship. Yeah, and it's like, whoa, okay, so we've been 5 episodes kind of, skirting around this. He likes her, she likes him. No, they don't. No, he wants to stay with his girlfriend. No, Caggie doesn't want to get involved. And now it's like full on. Spenny dumps his girlfriend and admits to Caggie he has feelings for her. He's loved her for 6 years.
Well, hold on, though. We have to back up, because Spencer gets out of the car, and what is he wearing?
Yeah, I wrote that in my notes. Like,
what? It looked like he was wearing, like, Paris Hilton sunglasses with, like, an Alexander Wang, like, big scarf. It was so weird. I mean, I don't think it was actually Alexander Wang, but it had that vibe, like, bougie woman almost.
No, but you know what? That's how Spencer used to dress.
Yeah.
And
then he got stylist.
Well, no, then he became like a more cool guy. But I kind of like appreciate this old school Spenny style.
Like the tweed and pink.
He had such a style I think he was really playing into at the beginning, and then he quickly abandons it, like maybe once he sees himself.
So quickly.
But it's like I have like fond memories of that Spencer.
Oh my gosh, that's all I could think when he got out of the car. I was like, what is Spencer wearing? I love Spencer. I mean, you can't help it because he's so funny.
Yeah,
but
charismatic.
He's definitely a troublemaker in this episode because, well, okay, troublemaker in a sense. Like, I think he genuinely comes into this situation. I used to, like I said a couple episodes ago, that I thought it was all for the chase. And I believe that to a certain extent, but I feel like at this point he believes his feelings, or he believes what he's saying. Like, he seems, when he's actually talking to Caggie about how he's loved her for 6 years, like, that seemed authentic to me.
I believe he broke up with Funda when he found out he was going to con with Caggie.
What? Does that happen before?
It seems to me like they were doing this show. He was he reignited his feelings for Caggie, which I, like you said, like I believe he has had, and I believe the events of the show led to the demise of the relationship with Funda probably faster than it was going down. And I believe, because, they probably planned that trip a while before. So I feel like once Spencer in his head knew about that, it was a catalyst for the breakup with Funda.
Yeah, which maybe explains why Caggie is so upset that he broke up with Funda and then went on this trip. Because, so from my perspective, I thought it was much shadier if they had still been together as opposed to breaking up. Like, Caggie and Spencer both make a big deal, and so does Funda, actually, of the fact that they just broke up and then they went away to con. But presumably, if they hadn't broken up, then Caggie and Millie are going on like a double date vacation with Spencer and Hugo. Like, how does that make sense?
It doesn't make sense at all, and I think we have to kind of sidestep that a bit, because it is artificial construct of the show.
But I think we have, like, part of the fun about doing this podcast is, like, yeah, a lot of this is going to be manufactured and we can guess at that. But this is also a narrative that they're playing.
No, it's true. But I felt for Funda at the end when she was like, well, why would you go if you thought we were together? But at the same time, like, so I agree with that. And I'm not saying Caggie should get, like, away with it or whatever we want to say, but I just it gives me like slightly more sympathy when we're kind of criticizing maybe her choices in this situation.
That she didn't know.
No, that she, I don't think if it was on a TV show, she wouldn't have gone.
Yeah,
that's just totally inappropriate.
But if it's all manufactured, then why would it matter what his relationship status is? Like, I think they've got the wrong end of this. Like, I think she should have been, I think it would have been more inappropriate had they gone when Spencer had a girlfriend at home.
Yeah.
Millie and Hugo have a relationship. Spencer and Funda have a relationship, and Caggie's going with Spencer essentially on what seems like a couple's trip.
Yeah, and when Funda, did call her out, Caggie didn't really have anything to say about that. Because, it was inappropriate.
But Funda calls her out for, like, we broke up and now you're going with him.
Because Caggie said, oh, I didn't know. But she's like, but what, do you think that trip was innocent before? Like, Funda does call her out on it.
Okay, that's fair.
And Caggie doesn't really have an excuse. And, like, how excited she was. And then the whole time she was saying, like, this is the best trip of my life and all this.
I know. Which, again, is really difficult to understand from the Caggie that we've seen so far, who essentially has wanted to avoid Spencer a large part of the time. She's happy to hang out with Hugo. She's happy to hang out with Millie. She's happy to hang out with the rest of her friends. But she's very careful around Spencer. She's even more careful around Funda. But suddenly this is the best trip of her life? This doesn't really make sense. Obviously, she doesn't want to be a rebound. So when she finds out that he has ended things with Funda, she's really distraught and she's really worried about the optics. But
yeah, definitely the optics.
But, like, you weren't worried about that before? Like, to some degree, she's been playing into this storyline, like telling Funda that she's always had feelings. It's just I found it a weird time to care about the optics. Having said that, like, I think they do have really good chemistry, and obviously anyone who watches this show for the first time loves Spencer and Caggie, and you're shipping for them. You want them to get together.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we dig into it, it's a little bit more complicated than originally presented.
Yeah, it's definitely complicated, and they definitely get called out for it.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about in a second at the garden party. But, I mean, the scene on the yacht where, I mean, Spencer's obviously a little toasted, but where they go look at the view, and even before that, like, their banter before, I mean, it's just... You know, he's like, I feel so good around you. And you can tell, like, he just seems so happy and relaxed. And they just seem to be having so much fun. And it's like, you know, we're six episodes in. And, you know, some of the dynamics work better than the others. But it's no dynamic has worked this well. Everyone is just, you could just tell the affection. Like, everybody, those four just really love each other. And
just get on really well.
And I think that's why we like it so much.
I think that's a really good point. And though I think, like, I can understand where Caggie is coming from, saying this isn't the right timing for us now, when they're at the back of the restaurant and they're looking out in the view, and he's just confessed his love for her. But this is a person who's just broken up with his girlfriend, who he lived with, who, as we've spoken about before, is probably was in a quite serious relationship. And he's saying he's the happiest he's ever felt. That would be a huge red flag. If someone's just broken up with someone and they're so happy, like, you know, either they're lying to themselves and they just haven't really grieved the relationship yet, or they're kind of, like, sociopathic. Like, this is a really serious relationship.
True, but I kind of was feeling for him, just thinking about when you have a crush, like, that high you get when you're with them. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like, it's coming at a really inappropriate time, but I guess
it's the high. I think it's the high.
So relatable.
Yeah. But I think it's the high because he was already checked out of his relationship with Funda. I think you're right. I think from her perspective, it could have been a red flag, but from his perspective, he's been out of his relationship with Funda since essentially Caggie came back into his life. How he acted and how he behaved, that is not how you treat. If you're still in love with your girlfriend, that's not how you act. That's probably not how you act.
It's not how you should act.
It's not how you should act. So yeah, at this garden party, which I kind of forgot was in this episode. It's kind of like at the tail end, and Caggie's singing again. And we have this really authentic moment where Funda walks in and she's got this presence with her that even Caggie comments on. And Caggie just, like, shuts down. She's not even able to perform anymore.
Yeah, I found that was so weirdly cut and edited. I was so unsure of what to make, like, of how that sequence actually went.
Yeah,
it was so weird, and Caggie was so awkward.
So awkward, so dramatic. She literally had, like, 20 people around listening to her singing, and she says, like, fuck, and stops. But then she comments on it, like, that's the weird thing, because I thought maybe they put this together and she was just, like, sound checking or something like that, and it was just edited.
Yeah.
But then later, like a few minutes later, when she's talking, she just says, I've never experienced, like, someone able to shift the mood of an entire garden party. Like, I think that was Caggie really grappling with what happened. I don't actually think it was manufactured, but that's just me. I don't know. I have to believe some of it.
And then, yeah, Funda comes in.
She is a woman on a mission. She, like, marches up to Spencer and Caggie. So much sass is going on. She was, like, little, like, bitchy comments to Caggie.
She has her little clique in the Ollie, Cheska, Biggie for this one episode. Like, they're her little posse.
What happened? It's like, oh, you're, like, miles above Caggie. It's like, oh, have you met Caggie?
Yeah, it's like you would never say that to Caggie.
No, exactly.
But yeah, and then she confronts Spencer, like, rightfully so, like, very disrespectful behavior. He doesn't really have a leg to stand on here. Like, he has to just suck it up and apologize.
He looks ashamed, I think. Yeah. He just kind of looks... I think it's interesting that he's so angry that she shows up. Like, he seems genuinely angry that she's there. I don't know if he was told she wasn't invited.
No, because... these are his friends. This is his gang, I think. And it's like...
true. His show.
Because he knows that's fake. It's like, no, you're not friends with Binky and them. Like, you're just here to cause trouble. He knew that.
You know what I learned the other day? I was reading something, and it said that it was actually Hugo's idea for this show. He pitched it to MTV, and then somehow, I guess Channel 4 picked it up. Is it Channel? Has it always been on E4? Or is it?
I think so. It's weird because he doesn't stick around very long.
Yeah, because he like found out what the reality of reality TV show is.
Yeah, too like self-conscious about his reputation or something.
Well, no, because Hugo falls in love and then wants to leave. I don't think it. We'll get there. We'll talk about that later.
But yeah, I guess we should discuss how the final interaction between Caggie and Funda goes. It's a little intense.
So intense. But I think it was coming for a while. Like, I think on some level we knew this was inevitable, that Funda and Spencer would break up and Caggie would be blamed for it, regardless of any of their actions, that this is how it's going to play out.
And I think Funda rightfully calls out Caggie for trying to be friends with her.
Yeah.
And, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you trying to gain my trust and, like, make everything cool and then the next second go to con with my boyfriend?
And Caggie can't be like, the show made me do it. I don't want to be your friend. This is really bizarre.
Yeah, exactly. Like, nothing happened and trying to protect her reputation, too.
Yeah, you know what also is Caggie's, like, really dolled up. You know her first gig and she was wearing just kind of like a painter's smock and she looked just kind of, you know, beautifully undone is kind of Caggie's vibe. But here she's like got the really heavy makeup on and she's got like a dress. Like I feel like, I don't know, maybe it was the occasion, but I thought she kind of matched Funda in that, like they're both very dressed up.
Well, in con, I mean, Caggie was dressed to the nines and her makeup was so perfect.
True.
Looking at her makeup, I was like, oh my god, looks
she
perfect.
Looked amazing.
I'm like, they must have had professionals do everything for them.
No, hold on, Millie was a makeup artist though. Like before the show, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, because remember the first photo shoot with the guy, she's doing makeup?
But I mean, Millie looks amazing like always, but Caggie had a glow about her.
Yeah. Because I think Caggie's normally like undone sort of, but like in a good way. But yeah, she was definitely dressed to the nines. I loved her dress. I want it. I mean, I don't look good in like bright yellow, but it worked for her. Okay, so I want to talk about our next trio, our next awkward trio, now that we're done with Caggie, Spencer, and Funda, for now at least. And it's Fred, Francis, and Agnes. And this trio is a little bit different because almost everyone's aware that it's trio except for Agnes. And so we have Fred and Francis who are fencing. And last time we saw Fred and Francis, not that there was tension between them, but there was definitely a little bit of competitiveness. Like Fred took out Agnes and it was kind of behind Francis's back a tiny bit. And I think Francis was a little bit upset with Agnes for doing that. But this time they're, you know, bro code, totally open with each other. Let's form a gentleman's agreement and let's both secretly date Agnes. And she's not allowed to know, but the guys are going to know. What did you think about that?
Didn't Fred ask Agnes out at the poker night?
I think he mentioned it. I don't think they did like the full arrangement.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was. I found that fencing scene interesting because it started off with them both just acknowledging that they liked her. This whole time Francis has been skirting around it.
Francis, yeah, exactly. And he's been saying it's unprofessional, blah, blah, blah. She's my employee.
And now it's like, oh yeah, we both like her. Let's both keep dating her. And it's just, well, like we were saying last episode too, like very little to no chemistry between Agnes and Frederick. So like other than the fact that she's hot, I don't really buy his affection towards her. And they don't even interact at all this whole episode. It's just all about her and Francis. So I mean, like, they're building up a love triangle that does not really even exist.
But it's like an agreement. Yeah, it's not even like there's a competition. I mean, I suppose it's a friendly competition. They're both going to date her. But I felt more so that they're both just trying to take advantage of, you know, hanging out with her and hooking up with her potentially. But you know what's interesting is like Francis defends her. Like he's like, don't call her a hoe, or she's not a hoe, or something like that. Like, just given his attitude in the past, I'm a little bit surprised by this because he seems to treat her as less than.
He still does. And like this whole setup is still like just objectifying her. They're treating her like a piece of meat essentially.
Yeah. And then we have that juxtaposed with Mark Francis's treatment of Agnes in this episode. when she tells him that she's doing Francis's dry cleaning, which again, okay, gross. But
Yeah.
I suppose that's sort of intern level sort of things sometimes. But Mark Francis says, no, you're not cut out for dry cleaning. Like, I'm going to give you this offer, like this position in the south of France, like set up a home and do some antiquing. I think it gives her a little bit more flexibility in terms of what she can do on this show.
Mm-hmm.
She's not just the little intern, so she doesn't have to necessarily please Francis all the time. I mean, I'm happy with this development.
I'm happy with it too, but even if Mark Francis isn't interested in her, sexually, he's still kind of holding her on a pedestal for her appearance. Like, I think he is using her for that. He loves beautiful things, and he's using that. And, like, he's introducing her to this lifestyle. He can show her, like, what it is to live in Cannes and all of this stuff. Yeah. So I just feel like the grossness a little bit with him in a totally different way. I just feel like she's this object for these guys to, like, play around with, and I just don't really like it.
Yeah, so I actually didn't see it that way, but I see it that way now. You're right. But I think the struggle is that she's brand new in that she doesn't have any other social connections on this show. Like, we found that with Funda, but we have her now connecting somehow with Binky, Jessica, and Ollie. But I think it's difficult when you have a totally isolated character and she comes in as an employee. So how do you treat her like that? Either she starts a relationship, which they're trying to make happen, or she's an employee still. But I think really her main purpose in this episode was to essentially text. Or was it Mark Francis? That's what I want to know. Who texted Funda?
It was. I know they didn't say it because Funda didn't say it, but so you saw Agnes pull out her phone right away.
Oh, how does Agnes know Funda?
That's what I was wondering too. I don't know. I think it was just, manipulation of it.
Yeah, because how else was Funda gonna find out? Like, now it would be like, oh, it's on Instagram. I saw it, and
No, now it would have been like Binky or Francis knows and tells Funda.
But we'd actually see that conversation.
Yeah,
and, like, me and Chelsea, now you would have that little in between.
Yeah,
and you would see it. So Ollie's modeling career. Don't even know where to start with this. I love Ollie's modeling. I love it all. I think it's so funny when they're taking the photo shoot and Cheska's like weirdly like propping him up against a tree.
That was so funny.
And he's basically nude. Is he not entirely nude in that?
No, I think he has like a G-string on of some sort.
Oh my god. But like, this is someone who wants to go into like fashion modeling. Why is he like posing with fruits and vegetables in the park nude? Like, I don't understand what the angle was.
Yeah, the agent was saying, or the casting, or the
I didn't like him though.
He was just saying, he was just saying, oh, it's too sexual. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, but did you notice he said this has got like a gay vibe to it? I was like, how?
I was wondering if I heard that right.
He was like, this is. I forget exactly what he said. He said something about.
No, I remember you're talking about, but I'm like, did I hear that right? Did he say gay vibe? Because...
Gay influences. He said gay influences.
Okay.
It's like, why? It's a nude man. I mean, okay, the carrots and the banana, but that's a stretch. I feel like that's a stretch. If anything, it's kind of got like Renaissance. I don't know. Maybe because he has long hair. Another thing is when he comes at Ollie for his long hair, like, leave him alone. He looks great with long hair. And why should he have your haircut to make it in the modeling world? Like, he's like, you're not going to be a model if you don't cut your hair. It's like, are you joking me? Of course you can be a model if you don't have short hair. He's striking. Ollie's always been striking.
And his hair is a part of that look.
Yeah, exactly. This is a very weird modeling conversation.
I think, Ollie's just going through the motions and having fun and maybe wants to get into this. But I think he kind of maybe knows this is not his calling. But it's funny, Gabby isn't mentioned at all, nor is she in this episode.
Oh, yeah. That's true. I wonder what Gabby's doing. She's probably recording more Fight
Part 2. Still fighting.
Aw, Gabby. Okay, so what was your favorite moment of this episode?
My favorite moment was on the yacht. I don't know if I'll take your moment. Where they're drinking champagne And then Spencer, well, all the whole conversation is so great, but then what did he say? He said,
It's like this
such a
conversation's really
boring
dry.
such a dry conversation. I'm so sorry. Why don't you go sit somewhere else then? Just how she
That's
said
what I'm
it.
saying. Like that group has such a good dynamic. There's so much chemistry between the four of them. They're so much fun to watch. No, so my favorite moment was actually not that, though. That is a close second. My favorite moment was when... Okay, that might have been my favorite moment, but this is like my follow-up moment. And again, we're always drawn to these like funny moments because this show is great with drama and there's actually so much drama, but it's the little bits of humor stuck in between that make you keep coming back for more. So my favorite moment was when it was Binky, Cheska, and Ollie, and they're talking about fish babies. Oh, yeah. And like they're like, fish can, like, they have babies out of their mouths, and Ollie's like, what? And then Cheska's like, no, it's out of their bum. And Ollie's like, what? Like, it's not out of their bum. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, that was so funny.
So funny. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so Linz, what are we listening to?
I have a song just for you this week, Tam.
Do you?
Do you know what song I'm talking about?
I think I probably do.
Little Baptism?
Oh my gosh, no, that's not what I was thinking of.
This is your baptism.
Oh my God.
Cut that out for sure. But Baptism by Crystal Castles.
What scene was that in?
It was in the scene right before Ollie, Binky, and Cheska talk about the fish bumps.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. No, I was thinking of there's like a French song that's playing. I think
Comme un enfant by Yell.
You know what's interesting is like when people listen to this, they might think we formed our playlist back then off of this show. But what was really cool for us watching this is that we would be in love with these songs like completely separately, and then we'd watch an episode of Made in Chelsea and be like, oh my God, it's that song. And it was shocking because a lot of times back then, Made in Chelsea featured these really small little indie bands and even like garage kind of indie bands, which is a lot of what we were back in uni.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they get more into that later on. Like I've been noticing, but in the first season, it's a lot of pop and like techno, and it's still like what we liked, but I know it gets more.
Yeah. But now it's not in this like in the 21st season. They don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I don't even notice the music anymore when I watch it.
No, it used to be a big part of the show. Like the humor, the drama, and the music, I'd say were like Main Chelsea's like sticking points. Like that's what attracted to us the show.
And I also wanted to point out Caggie's rendition of Rihanna's song "Man Down."
Oh my God.
It was a cool version. It was a cool mix, but it was also, I just made me think of Funda with her Rihanna take when she's dancing to S&M. And now this is Caggie's version.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Hold on though, what was the song that Caggie sang at her first gig? I thought that was also a Rihanna song.
Oh yeah, you're right. She sang "What's My Name" at the Troubadour in the first episode. So that's her thing.
She's a super fan of Rihanna. Rihanna's got like quite a voice though, so that's a ambitious task to try and. I mean, she succeeds. She's a great singer, but
yeah, she really does make it her own. She does cool things to the song.
Okay, guys, so that was episode 6. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to hit us up on our Instagram, which is takemetochelsea_podcast.
On next week's episode, Spencer's plan to win Caggie over doesn't seem to be going as planned. Rosie and Francis have a spat over his treatment of Agnes, and Millie and Hugo's relationship status becomes Facebook a fish. Until next time.